Hi, I'm Dan Danford. We're doing another episode of Money Made Easy for DadsDivorce.com. We take a question from a viewer at the website and I try to provide some answers. Today's question, I think, is a great topic. I want to get my older teenagers involved in handling their finances. They both have part-time jobs and make a decent hourly wage for high school kids. But where do I start? Should they get set up with a credit card, or is that too early and or risky? I love this, and especially in today's world where they've recently changed the rules on credit cards. And I think that makes this less risky for you if that's what you want to do. First of all, though, let me talk a minute about kids working. I just think that's a terrific idea. There are a couple of great purposes for work. One, obviously, is because it generates a little revenue for them. And kids need to have some money in their pocket if they're going to learn how to spend it properly. The other thing I like about work is most of the places where teenagers get jobs aren't places where you'd want to spend your whole career anyway. So spending a year or two working at one of those places is great motivation for going to school and getting more education. I know with my three daughters, I encouraged all three of them to work during high school, and all three of them took a stab at it and were occasionally miserable because of it. But it's something that I recommend to every family because kids need to know about work. So first of all, my three observations about kids working. First of all, most of what works in finance is behaviorally oriented. In other words, whether or not you'll succeed in the world of finance has a lot to do with the things that you do. So there are a couple of things that come from working as a teenager that I think are really important. The first one is the habit of work. Just in general, work is good. Work provides fulfillment for most of us in our lives. When you think about all the time we spend working, how important it is to our, basically to our happiness, then you begin to realize how important it is for kids to get a touch of that. So I guess the first thing I say is getting kids started in high school gets them started with the work habit, and I think that's an important thing to know. The next thing is the savings habit, and I believe this is really important as well. I think that for most of us, our success is tied to our ability to save some of what we earn today so that we can buy bigger and better things later on down the road. So no matter how little your teenager is working or how little their income is, even if it's $50 or $75 a week, get them started right off the bat with saving part of that instead of spending it all. And even if it's only $10, $12, or $15 a week, they'll get to see how that money builds up and how it builds up so that they can use it to buy something important later on. So the second thing is the savings habit, which I think is really important. The third thing that I think is important is what I call the spending habits. And this is maybe the most important lesson you can get from having your teenager work. That's that most problems that I run into with clients and money has to do with making bad buying choices. In other words, it's important to learn how to spend wisely. And I've talked before, and I'll talk about it again, what I call my eBay test. And that's real simple. Before you buy something, before you go to the store and buy something, whether it's a piece of electronics or something else, jump onto eBay and see how much that product is selling for used. Couldn't be simpler. So if you're getting ready to plop down $200 to buy a new TV set, before you do, jump onto eBay and look and see how much that exact same TV set is selling for used. If it's selling for $75 or $100, then you see right off the bat the haircut that you're going to take by buying that item new. And truthfully, there's nothing wrong with buying it used anyway, especially when it comes to electronics. I know I buy a lot of my stuff refurbished, and it comes with the same factory warranties and everything. It just costs 2/3 as much. So all I'm going to say is that if you teach your teenagers how to spend wisely, then most of the problems they might encounter later on won't ever happen. I just think that those three lessons are very important. They need to learn how to work, they need to learn how to save, and they need to learn how to spend. Now, the last question you asked was about credit cards. One of the things that's changed in the credit card world is that now kids that are under 21 have to have a parent co-sign in order for them to get a credit card. Now, that sounds sort of cumbersome, and in a way it might be. If you send your kids away to school with a credit card and they spend badly, you're going to be on the hook for it. On the other hand, I think one of the reasons why kids get in trouble when they go away to school is that there isn't anyone looking at the bills with them every month. In other words, what seems like a small thing snowballs into something very, very large simply because there's no adult oversight. So, I think it's a good idea for you to get your kids started with a credit card, and I think there are a couple of lessons that are important there. The first one is to use the card in a deliberate manner. In other words, don't use a credit card for impulse buying. Instead, wait and see when it makes sense to use the credit card and then use it. Two things make sense to me on that. One is convenience. There are some times where it's more convenient to use a credit card. That might be something as simple as buying something on the internet or traveling or whatever, but there are just times when having a credit card is more convenient than carrying cash. So that's one thing. The other thing is there are times when you can buy goods on sale with a credit card that you couldn't afford if you had to wait until you saved the money. Okay? So it might make sense. You might, be $10, $15 short of something you need, and ordinarily you'd save the money until you had it to go buy it, but here it comes up on sale and you can buy it for $10 or $15 less. Okay, go ahead and use the credit card, buy it on sale, and then, this is the most important lesson of all, pay off the credit card at the end of the month. Use the card deliberately, use it when it makes sense, and pay it off at the end of the month. And when you do that with your children, you will teach them how to use credit wisely. This whole subject is incredibly important. I just can't stress enough. Kids will learn from your example. They won't necessarily learn from what you say, but they will learn from your example. And if you don't give them good examples, they will learn by default. I want you to think about that for a second. That means they're going to learn how to use credit cards and how to spend money based on what they see other kids doing, or maybe based on what they see in the movies or on television. I don't know about you, but those aren't good places for my kids to learn about money. Okay? The best place for them to learn about money is for you to teach it to them, and to teach it to them by good example. That's it for another episode of Money Made Easy. We'll see you next time.